Hello everybody. In today's video, I'm going to be showing you how to replace the rear sway bar, also called the rear stabilizer bar, the bushings, as well as the end links. So let's start by taking a look under the vehicle. I'm going to show you the good side first. So here we have the stabilizer end link itself. It's held in by a nut up there and a nut down here. Then here's the sway bar. And coming back a little bit, here's the sway bar bushing, the sway bar bushing holder, and then the bushing holder is held in by a nut in the back there, and then a nut there. So two on each side. You can see this is pretty rusted, but as we replace the parts, I'll make it up to you to decide whether or not you want to replace this. It's pretty cheap, but we'll probably definitely want to replace this bushing holder. It's got 300,000 miles and 18 years of use on it. And this side is good. If you wanted to test the actual end link, you would just want to give it a little rock back and forth. But this one is pretty good. Nothing wrong with it. On this side you can definitely see, specifically looking right here, the amount of play. And even hear it a little bit too. When you're driving and making a sharp turn, that's mainly when you'll hear a knocking sound, or at least when I hear a knocking sound anyways. But definitely time to be replaced. Also, to check the sway bar bushings, all you'd have to do is come under the car and give the sway bar itself a good shake up and down, forward and backward on both sides, and there should be absolutely no play as seen here. I know that these are new bushings at the time of filming this clip, but even still on the old ones there was no play, but I decided I was going to change these out for the sake of the video. So I'm going to be replacing the end links, the bushings, bushing holders, and you'll also notice throughout this video I'll be replacing the sway bar itself. That's because my old one was bent a little bit, which is a complete oddity. Sway bars really aren't supposed to bend, but somehow mine did a little bit, which was causing this right end link to bend and prematurely wear. So I'll be replacing that. Otherwise, it'll also be some good insight in case you wanted to upgrade your sway bar as well. But for my purposes, I'm just going to be putting another OEM one on. So now that we've determined which parts are bad, we can purchase the replacements and work on putting them in. If you need new end links, you're going to have to go through the lengthy process of jacking up both sides of the vehicle, removing the wheel and removing the end link bolts and replacing those end links. And that's exactly what I'm going to be showing you in this video. And as an added bonus, I'll also be showing you how to replace the bushings too. But if only your bushings are bad, you can purchase just the bushing and possibly the bushing holder, and you don't have to go through that lengthy process of jacking up the car and all that. You can actually just remove these two bolts on both sides and the sway bar will come down a little bit. You can pop the old ones off and you can put the new bushings and bushing holder back on and bolt it back in place and you're done. So why don't we get started? Alright, so we're going to come to AcuraPartsForLess.com to buy some parts. This is my personal favorite website because they got the best prices. And we're going to select our new vehicle, and I've got a 2002 TL sedan, Type S. And we're going to come down here to Chassis, and we're going to select the rear lower arm. So here are all the parts that we're going to need. So here's the main stabilizer spring itself, if you need to replace that. And we're going to need 2 of these bushings. So when you go to add to your cart, make sure you select a quantity of 2. And then we're also going to need these bushing holders. Again, we're also going to need 2 of these. And lastly, we're going to need new screws to hold in these bushings. And for this one, we're going to need 4. And if you're not replacing the stabilizer spring or the bushings or the holders or anything like that at all, you're just going to need the stabilizer links over here. For my particular car, the links are discontinued. So if it's the same situation for your vehicle, you might have to do a little bit of research and find out what the part number for your replacements are. But for my car, these are the replacements. The kit comes with 2 links, and unfortunately, despite paying $80+, it only comes with 2 of the nuts, 2 of the 4 required nuts. So you would add that to your cart. And then we're just going to go back. And then you'll need, since it only comes with 2 nuts, you're going to need to order the other 2. So quantity of 2 there. And you should be all set for parts. Alright, first things first, since we're going to be jacking up the rear of the vehicle and can't put the e-brake on, we're still going to put some wood chucks under the front tire, just for some extra security on both sides. And then we're going to jack up the car by its jack point right here, and then we're going to place a jack stand right under this point here as well. And we're going to do that on the other side. So that way we can have the entire rear of the car off the ground and both of the wheels off the car. Then I'm going to take some WD-40 or some other penetrant, and we are going to lubricate all 4 of our bolts, because it's going to need it. These are super rusted, so do that one, both of the bolts on the end links, and then we're going to come up in here and we're going to give that a little squirt too on both of those bolts as well. Alright, so first things first, even before I try the impact wrench, I'm just going to use my longest ratchet, and I would highly recommend using a hex socket. The one with 6 sides, not the 12-sided star pattern one, because those are really prone to stripping nuts and bolts. So definitely use this. And the bolt on here is a 14 millimeters, so just gonna guide it in place. All right, here we go. Okay. Wasn't as hard as I thought it was going to be, but definitely still quite a decent amount of muscle, and digging my elbow into my hip and just using all the torque I got. So I would recommend starting with your longest ratchet that you got, and if all else fails, you can switch on over to your impact wrench. So now I'll get it in place on the next bolt down there. All right, and so here's my setup for the second bolt on the end link. Make sure that's in place, and definitely required 2 hands, but I just got under here, grabbed it with one hand here, and the other hand a little bit here, and then just kind of, you know, gave it a good push, and then it came undone relatively easy. So I can go the rest of the way with it with one hand. So now we're just gonna work those 2 nuts off. And again, this is probably the hardest part. Don't be surprised if it takes you a good half hour or even a full hour for that matter, just, you know, inching them off a quarter turn at a time. Do what you gotta do. Use your impact sock if you need to. Use a torque wrench, or not torque wrench, a vice grips. You know, I remember I kind of gripped it. It'll focus on the correct part. Kind of gripped it on the back side of the nut, like right there, to prevent the bolt itself from spinning. And then you can use your ratchet or your impact wrench to work that nut off. But eventually it will come off, and so now we can remove the end link off both sides, and this should now be free and wobbly, and we'll take off these bushing screws now. And again, we're using this time it's a 12 millimeter 6-sided hex socket, so let's see if we can remove it. Oh yeah, these are much easier to remove. I took essentially no effort. Let's try the other one while we're at it. Okay, here we go. Time for the other one. Oh yeah, these are much easier to remove. No problem at all. All right, so I'm just gonna remove this last bolt with my impact socket just to make it a little faster. There we go. And with some careful maneuvering and switching sides a couple times, you should be able to pull it right on out. Let's see here. There we go. All right, so here's just a quick side-by-side comparison. All things considered, this bushing really isn't in the worst condition. But now I'm giving you a little bit of a video side-by-side comparison. I mean, it still feels perfectly smooth on the inside. Then here's this little look at the actual bushing holders. Pretty rusted, but then again, its sole purpose is just to hold everything together. It doesn't have to be perfect. So again, completely up to you if you want to spend the extra 10 or 15 bucks or whatever it comes out to be to get new components. That'll be up to you. I guess, yeah, just a case-by-case basis. Some people said they're completely worn out and rotted, and mine appear to be in surprisingly good condition. Alright, so now we just need to take some 3M silicone paste, and we're just gonna lube up the inside of our new bushing, as well as give the actual stabilizer bar itself a good little coating on the connection points. Alright, so once you got the stabilizer bar and the little rubber bushing all lubed up with silicone, you can just pry it open like that and slide it on the bar, all while ensuring that once it's on, the flat side is up and the little crease is facing towards the back. That's because most of the time you're driving forward and it's harder for debris to get into the bushing when everything's going in that direction. So make sure the little crease is towards the back, and then we'll work on putting these on. Next, we're just gonna get this in place and hand tighten the screws on both sides. All right, we've got the stabilizer in place, as well as the stabilizer bushings and the stabilizer bushing holders are screwed in. We got this just barely snugged on there by hand. And again, we're just going to double check that the gap in the bushing is facing backwards. And so what I did to get this entire thing in is I started just the front screw on this side. Then I went over there, started the front screw on that side, and then I did the back screws. And I just barely snugged them down by hand. And once that's all done, we're going to grab our torque wrench and we're going to tighten it to 16 foot-pounds. Got our torque wrench in place at 16 foot-pounds. Got that one. Do the other one. There we go. And we'll do the same thing on the other side. All right, and with the bushing bolts torqued down, we can then take our end links and put them in place. These should go in without any resistance, so I've already got the other one just kind of in place, not even bolted down or anything yet. So we'll just slide that in there. Let's get a good angle for you. Slide it in place. There we go. Exact same thing on the other side. And we can begin torquing down our bolts. Also take note of the fact that the bottom portion is pointing towards the center of the vehicle, and the top portion is pointing towards the front of the vehicle. Same thing on both sides. All right, and for getting these nuts back on, you can start by taking your 14mm socket and ratchet, and you can just tighten it until you notice right here, there's that little black ring that's touching the actual stabilizer bar on the inside. Once you notice that start spinning, stop using your ratchet, and that'll get it most of the way on. Then once that bolt and that little circular part starts spinning, you're going to take a 14mm wrench. You're going to take the 12-sided star pattern, and you'll put it on there. I'm going to turn it around. There we go. And then you'll take your 5mm hex wrench and maneuver it into the back of the bolt there. And then what you'll do is you'll just have one hand holding your hex wrench and then another hand holding the actual wrench itself. And you'll tighten that thrust of the way nice and snug to the best of your ability. And then after that, we're going to use our torque wrench to torque it down to 29 foot-pounds. And so again, when you're torquing this down, make sure that little rubber part doesn't spin as you're torquing it down. Just gonna watch it. Oh, so we can see that spin a little bit there. So I'm gonna get my box wrench and my hex wrench back on there and torque it down a little bit again by hand. We're gonna try it again. All right, there we go. So that is torqued down. And then we're gonna do same thing for the bottom one. And we're just gonna pull up and make sure that that little black part doesn't start spinning again. That looked pretty good to me. All right, so we got the vehicle on the ground. All our jack stands and everything are out from under the vehicle. No tools or anything. Just gonna torque our wheels down to 80 foot-pounds. All right, and then we can take our woodchucks out from under the front wheels. All right, and that concludes our video. I want to thank you all for watching. I hope this video was insightful and could give you a good idea of the process in removing and putting in a new sway bar, as well as your sway bar end links. If you want to check out the description, I'll post a lot more information down there, as well as feel free to leave a comment. I'm usually pretty good about getting back to people. Again, thanks for watching and take care.